It was raining when I left, the kind of steady drizzle that soaks you without you realizing. I pulled my hood up, stuck my hands in my jacket pockets, and told myself it was just a quick trip. 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back. The address was in a part of town I didn't go to much. Not bad exactly, just quiet. Old houses, narrow streets, fewer lights. The kind of place where you notice how dark it gets between the lamps. I parked in front of a small, narrow house with peeling white paint. No cars in the driveway. No lights on in the front windows. Just the faintest glow from somewhere deeper inside. I texted the seller, "Here." No reply. I sat there for a minute, wipers squeaking back and forth, debating whether to knock or just leave. Then my phone buzzed. Side doors open. Just come in. That should have been my first red flag. I got out, the cold rain hitting my neck, and walked along the narrow path toward the side of the house. The grass was overgrown, wet and brushing against my legs. The side door turned out to be one of those old wooden ones with a cloudy window and a tarnished brass knob. Pushed it open. The smell hit me first. Damp wood, faint cigarette smoke, and something sweet but spoiled. The room I stepped into was small, maybe a mudroom or enclosed porch. A single lamp sat on a table, its bulb flickering. No one was there. "Hello," called. Somewhere deeper in the house, a voice said, "Yeah, back here." It wasn't loud, but it was close enough to make me realize the walls must be thin. I stepped into a narrow hallway. The carpet was worn flat in the middle. Family pictures hung crooked on the walls, but all the frames were empty. The voice came again. "In here." I passed a closed door on my right. Something shifted behind it, the soft scrape of wood against wood, like a chair moving. I told myself maybe it was a pet. The hallway opened into a kitchen lit by a single overhead bulb. There was the lamp, the green glass shade, the brass base, sitting right in the middle of the floor, as if someone had just set it there a moment ago. I bent to look at it, my hand hovering over the switch. And then I realized the voice hadn't come from the kitchen. It had come from somewhere behind me. I froze in the kitchen doorway. The voice had been closer this time, just over my shoulder. But when I turned, the hallway was empty. The rain outside seemed louder now, drumming against the roof and the side windows. The house smelled heavier, like wet wood and something metallic. I crouched down and touched the lamp switch. Clicked, but nothing happened. The cord trailed across the floor out of the kitchen, around the corner into the dark. That's when I noticed. There was no furniture in the kitchen at all. No table, no chairs, just the bare bulb overhead and that lamp on the floor. I straightened slowly. "Hello," I said again. My voice sounded smaller this time. From somewhere farther back in the house, maybe the basement, I heard the creak of a step. Then another. I told myself they were just coming up to meet me, that they'd left the lamp here so I could see it. But each footstep was slow, dragging slightly. I took one step backward toward the side door. My shoes squeaked on the linoleum. The sound seemed to echo. The footsteps stopped. And then, in that same calm, too-close voice, "Don't leave yet. You haven't paid." My mouth went dry. I don't think I want it anymore," I managed. Silence. Then, so faint I almost thought I imagined it. The sound of something being set down on wood. Not a lamp. Heavier. I stepped back into the hallway. The bulb in the kitchen flickered, then went out, plunging it into shadow. The hallway felt narrower than before. The closed door I'd passed earlier was still shut, but I could see. I swear I could see. The faint shadow of feet under the gap at the bottom. Just standing there. My chest tightened. I started moving faster toward the mudroom. Behind me, the door creaked open. I didn't look. My hand closed around the side door knob, and it wouldn't turn. The latch clicked uselessly in my grip. The sound of slow, steady breathing came from the hallway. "Hey," the voice said again, but it wasn't calm this time. It was closer. I yanked the knob hard enough that the brass scraped against my palm. The door finally gave, opening into the wet night air. I ran. Not to my car, not yet. I didn't want to lead them to it. I cut through the neighbor's yard, slipping in the wet grass, and ducked behind a hedge. For a long moment, All I could hear was the rain and my own breathing. Then, from somewhere behind the house, a different door slammed. Footsteps in the yard. They moved slowly, like they weren't in a hurry, like they knew I wasn't going anywhere. I stayed there, crouched in the hedge, until I saw the dim shape of them walk past. Tall, shoulders hunched, something hanging from one hand. They stopped halfway down the street and just stood there, rain dripping off them. I waited until they finally turned and walked out of sight. When I got to my car, there was something on the hood, the lamp, still wet from the rain.
It's a stupid impulse buy. That's what I keep telling myself as I drive across town in the rain for a second-hand camera I found on Craigslist. The guy selling it said it's barely used, and his price is half of what it goes for online. We agreed to meet at his place because the lens is fragile, and he didn't want to move it more than necessary. The address leads me to an older neighborhood, narrow streets, sagging porches, big trees dripping with rain. The houses are close together, but every window I pass is dark. His is the only one with a light on. It's a warm, yellow light glowing in a downstairs window. I park at the curb and text him, "Here." The reply comes almost instantly, "Come in." Doors unlocked. I hesitate. Usually, I'd expect them to meet me outside, maybe on the porch. But I've driven all this way, so I get out, slam the door against the rain, and jog up the short path. The front door opens with a soft creak. "Hello." I call into the warm, dimly lit hallway. There's no answer, but the smell of coffee drifts from somewhere deeper inside. The house is, strangely quiet. Not the comfortable quiet of someone's home, but the heavy kind that feels like it's listening. I step inside, dripping onto a worn rug. My shoes squeak softly. On the wall, there are several framed photographs. All of them show the same man, tall, smiling, sometimes with a woman, sometimes alone. But in every photo, the man's eyes are just slightly out of focus, like the camera had moved right before the shutter clicked. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard groans. "Hello." I try again. My voice sounds small, like it's been swallowed up by the walls. The hallway opens into a living room. In the center of the coffee table is the camera, black, sleek, the exact model from the ad. I set my bag down and reach for it. That's when I see it, the reflection in the lens. It's me. And behind me, in the doorway I just walked through, a figure. They're not moving. Not breathing. Just standing perfectly still, close enough that if I stepped backward, I'd touch them. I freeze, my eyes locked on the camera's lens. The figure behind me doesn't move. My brain scrambles for an explanation. Maybe it's the seller, maybe they came in quietly, maybe they're just waiting. I swallow hard and turn my head. No one's there. The hallway is empty, the front door still closed. But the rug I stepped on when I came in, it's shifted. Just slightly, like someone else stepped on it after me. I tell myself I imagined it. I pick up the camera, more to have something in my hands than to inspect it. It's heavier than I expected. That's when I hear it, a slow, deliberate inhale, somewhere behind the couch. My mouth goes dry. I force a shaky laugh. "Hello. You, here." Silence. I step toward the couch, my shoes whispering against the old hardwood. I lean over just enough to look, nothing. And then, from upstairs, a floorboard creaks. It's such a tiny sound, but in this quiet, it's deafening. I set the camera back on the table. "You know what? I think I'm gonna head out," I say, my voice too high, too fast. I move toward the front door. My hand touches the knob, and stops. The door is locked. I know I didn't lock it when I came in. I jiggle it. The latch clicks, but it doesn't give. It's like someone's holding it shut from the other side. Behind me, the stairs groan. Slow, steady footsteps. I turn just in time to see the top of a head, dark hair, as someone peers around the upstairs banister, watching me. I can't see their face. We stand there, neither moving, the rain ticking against the windows. Then they start coming down. Not rushing, not hesitating, just an even, deliberate pace, like they've already decided how this ends. I back away until my calves hit the coffee table. The camera wobbles and tips over. They reach the bottom step. In the dim light, I can finally see their face. It's the man from the photographs on the wall, except here, in person, his eyes don't look out of focus. They look locked on me. "You came in," he says softly, like he's reminding me of something important. I nod without meaning to. My chest is tight. He tilts his head slightly. "That means you stay." He's still at the base of the stairs, blocking the narrow hallway to the front door. The rain outside sounds louder now, as if the whole world beyond the walls has moved further away. I take a step to the side, toward the kitchen. He doesn't move to stop me, which somehow feels worse. The kitchen is dim, lit only by the yellow spill from the hallway lamp. The first thing I notice is that the window above the sink has been painted shut. There's no other exit. I keep my back to the counter, scanning. The man steps into the doorway. He doesn't come closer. "You drove here," he says, not asking. I nod slowly. My hand finds a drawer handle behind me and I ease it open, cutlery, heavy enough to hold but nothing sharp enough to matter. "I saw your car," he says. "Nice. Red. Easy to remember." The implication sinks in like ice water. He knows exactly what to look for, if I make it outside. I take a breath. "Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding." I can. He tilts his head. "There's no misunderstanding. You came in. You stay." I edge sideways, putting the kitchen table between us. He doesn't follow immediately, just watches. Then, almost casually, he reaches behind the doorframe and turns something. I hear the solid click of a deadbolt engaging on a door I can't see. That's when I realize, the back door is locked too. I glance toward the archway leading deeper into the house. It feels like stepping into a mouth. The hallway beyond is darker. It smells faintly of damp earth, like a basement. I move quickly, my shoes barely touching the worn runner carpet. The man doesn't rush. His footsteps follow at a steady pace, always just far enough back that I can't turn and confront him without getting too close. I try a side door, a small laundry room, no windows. Another, a pantry, the air heavy with the smell of something sweet and rotting. And then, at the end of the hall, a door that's slightly open. Through the gap, I see rain on glass. I push it open. And stop. It's not outside. It's a sunroom, all windows, but every single one covered in a sheet of thick, opaque plastic stapled into the frames. The sound of rain is just an illusion. I can't see a thing beyond the milky surface. Behind me, the man's voice is closer now. Most people head for the sunroom. I turn. He's in the doorway, blocking it completely. I grip the edge of a wicker chair, ready to swing. My heart is pounding so hard I feel it in my teeth. He smiles faintly. "Go ahead. Try it." Something about the way he says it tells me he's not afraid. I tighten my grip, lift the chair, and stop when I hear another sound. From somewhere upstairs, a second set of footsteps. Slow. Steady. He sees the way my eyes shift. His smile widens. "You haven't met her yet." The upstairs footsteps are slow and deliberate, just like his. Not the heavy tread of someone hurrying down, no, this is the sound of someone taking their time because they know there's nowhere for me to go. The man doesn't move from the doorway. His head turns slightly toward the sound, almost like he's listening for a cue. And then, from the top of the stairs, a voice. It's soft, almost sing-song. Is it them? The man's smile doesn't waver. It's them. I take a step back, my shoulder brushing the plastic-covered window. The rain outside sounds like static. The second set of footsteps starts coming down. Slower than his, but each step sinks deep into the old wood, making the floor groan. I can't see the stairs from here, only the shadow stretching into the hall. I grip the wicker chair tighter, pulse racing. I'm leaving, I say, my voice shaking. The man tilts his head. You already know that's not true. The other figure appears. At first, all I see is hair. Long, dark, hanging forward like it's been wet for too long. Then the face lifts. It's a woman. But there's something wrong with the way she's looking at me, her eyes don't settle anywhere, like she's scanning me in pieces. She stops beside him. Neither of them blocks the doorway fully now, they leave a narrow space between them, just wide enough for me to pass. It's a trap. I know it. But the part of my brain screaming run is louder than the part telling me don't. I step forward slowly, the chair still in my hands. When I'm close enough, I can smell her, damp earth, and something metallic underneath. I take another step, and the man leans just slightly toward me. If you're going to swing, he says quietly, you should do it now. I don't. I step through the gap, into the hall, and see that the front door is wide open. The rug is back in its original position. Rain is blowing in, puddling on the floorboards. I don't think. I just run. My shoes slip on the wet wood, but I catch myself, tearing toward the door, out into the night. The rain is cold and heavy, the air sharp in my lungs. I make it to the sidewalk before I hear it, footsteps, fast now, pounding behind me. I sprint toward my car, fumble for the keys in my pocket, and stop. They're not there. The footsteps slow. From the shadows beside my car, a voice, the woman's, close enough to feel her breath on my neck. You dropped these inside. Something cold and metallic presses into my hand. I turn.
I've never talked about this before. Not to friends, not to family. Partly because I don't want them looking at me differently, and partly because I don't want to remember what it felt like. It was 3 years ago. I'd just gotten a small raise at work and decided to finally upgrade my car. I wanted something used, nothing fancy, just reliable. I found it online, a black Toyota Camry, spotless in the photos. Priced way lower than it should have been. The seller's name was Mark. His profile barely had anything on it. But when I messaged him, he replied instantly. He said the car was in private storage, on the edge of town, and that I could come by that night to see it. I should have said no, but I went anyway. The lot was the kind of place you don't notice until you're inside it. Rows of storage units, chain-link fence, and only one flickering light in the middle. The gate was wide open. Mark was there, leaning against the car, hood up so I couldn't see his face properly. He didn't shake my hand, didn't ask my name, just told me to take a look. The Camry was immaculate. Almost too immaculate. No plates, no personal touches inside. Just empty. When I asked why it was so cheap, he said, "Not mine." And then he smiled, like he was testing how I'd react. That's when I heard the gate slam shut. Another man had come in. I didn't hear his footsteps, just the sound of metal hitting metal when the gate locked. Another man had come in. I didn't hear his footsteps, just the sound of metal hitting metal when the gate locked. Mark didn't look at him. He just said, "If you want it, we keep the conversation inside," and nodded toward a dark storage unit. That smell hit me before I could answer. Faint but sharp, metallic, like old coins. And suddenly, I understood the Camry wasn't what they were selling. "Got more if you're interested," he said. I didn't move. "Well, what?" Mark's smile widened, just slightly. "Come see." That was when I noticed the smell. Faint but sharp, metallic, like old pennies or rusted tools. It was coming from the dark unit. I shook my head. I think I'll pass. Mark took one step toward me. The man by the gate took two. The flickering light overhead buzzed louder, and for a split second, the light caught something on the ground just inside the unit. Something pale, almost the size of a hand. I didn't want to look closer. Mark's voice was quieter now. "You're already here. Might as well take a look." The man by the gate was closer than I realized. I could hear his shoes scrape the gravel. The air felt thicker, like the night itself was pushing me toward that open door. I took a step back toward my car. Mark took another step forward. The man by the gate stopped moving. For a second, none of us spoke. Then Mark said, almost gently, "You're not leaving without seeing what's inside." I told myself I was going to run. I didn't know how, but I was going to turn, sprint from my car, and be halfway down the road before they could catch me. The problem was, I couldn't move. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something colder, heavier, like my body had already accepted what my mind refused to. Mark stepped aside from the Camry, leaving the space between us open. His eyes didn't leave mine. "Come on," he said softly, as if coax my friends down, open my door where I was going to live. The man by the gate stayed where he was, blocking the only way out. His breathing was slow and deep, like he wasn't in a hurry, like he'd done this before. The smell from the storage unit was stronger now, metallic, sour, faintly sweet in a way that made my throat tighten. I knew that smell. Everyone knows it, even if they pretend they don't. Blood. 5 seconds, Mark said, his voice still calm. "Then we help you." Something scraped inside the unit. Not a sound from them, from inside. I felt my chest seize. There was someone in there. I wanted to speak, to say no, but my mouth stayed dry and useless. Mark tilted his head toward the darkness. "They're waiting." The light above us flickered again, buzzing like a fly trapped against glass. In that split second of brightness, I saw it, a shape in the back of the unit, crouched low. Pale skin, knees drawn to its chest, head tilted at a strange angle, eyes wide open. They weren't looking at Mark, they were looking at me. I run, away, and never call the police.
I thought about running, just bolting for the street. But in that second, he reached behind his back and pulled something from his waistband. A small revolver. "Relax," he said softly. "It's just to make sure we understand each other." My pulse roared in my ears. He gestured toward the metal door with the gun. "Inside." I shook my head. No. His smile vanished completely. "Inside." The cold air from the open doorway reached me now, and I caught it. The smell I'd been trying not to identify since I walked in. Blood. I stood slowly, my legs weak. The gun didn't waver. Step by step, I moved toward the open door, every part of me screaming not to. The darkness inside seemed to swallow the light from the office. My breath fogged in front of me. I stopped at the threshold. "What is this?" Eric's voice was calm. "Storage." He nudged the barrel of the gun against my back, pushing me forward. The cold wrapped around me like a wet blanket as I stepped inside. My foot hit something soft. I looked down. It was a shoe, still on a foot. The door slammed shut behind the last sound I heard. The full breathing breast. The sound I heard before the latch clicked. The foot I refigured. The mouth. The door. The last sound I heard before the latch clicked was the foot I heard